Joe Budden gets so heated he walks off set.
All right, I didn't hear you, man.
I was just going to say, that's not his incentive.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, on the last episode of the Joe Budden podcast, Joe got so angry he walked off his damn podcast. And it was as a result of constantly being cut off.
It and ultimately fell victim. Let me land.
I disagree.
Let me land.
Well, go ahead.
Let me land.
No, I agree with you 1,000%. I disagree.
I have yet to see that from Drake.
My thing
Let me land. He got all the money in the world.
And not being allowed to get his point off. And this comes on the heels of the Drake lawsuit that literally every content creator is making hundreds of thousands off of millions, possibly, if you combine all of us together. And, oh man, there was a lot going on. You saw Joe really frustrated, and he was trying to get off several Let Me Lands, and that was because of Ice. Ice just kept cutting him off, just kept trying to get his opinion off, and Joe Budden looked severely frustrated. And this has ties to all those years ago. Remember when Marty the Body said that Joe was obsessed with Drake and he was making the show a Drake podcast?
Literally, it was about April or May. He started like going off on these Drake rants in 2016. That was when they were like beefing and it was becoming like he wasn't even like letting us get a word in edgewise, like me or Rory, really. Like it was weird times for a little bit.
I'm not saying what that is what this is, but it just has kind of a through line. Drake makes Joe Budden's wheels turn.
I think that kid on that album that I heard sounds real uninspired. That's what I think. I think that music is real good. You can't fool a You can fool them.
Every time there's Drake news, you see Joe kind of act like one of his, mistresses. Like, I don't want to talk about Drake. But then he talks about Drake. Drake has been instrumental in the rise of this podcast. If you were to do a statistical analysis of who the show has spent the most time on, it would be Drake. If you were to do a statistical analysis of who the show makes the most money off of, it would be Drake. Because even the Kendrick Lamar love that Joe Budden has been showing as of late hasn't been authentic, I submit. And he's simply using Kendrick to shoot at Drake. Because if you look at Joe Budden's musical wherewithal and all of that stuff, it just seems like he's more of a Drake guy. He likes R&B. He loves Jay-Z. And even though a lot of people say Drake is terrible now, he's more alike in terms of that East Coast rap style that Joe loves than Kendrick is. But this episode was just a lot going on. I mean, you also saw the limitations of the Sunday version of the cast. Ish severely uninformed. Ice cutting Joe off as if everybody came to see him. Kind of shades of Rory. Remember when Rory was on the show? Even though Rory is a lot more informed than Ice, Joe used to be frustrated that Rory would take the runway to speak and also use his business acumen as far as music to tell Joe he's completely wrong. And in this instance, what I think is happening is Ice might feel tapped in a little bit more due to his ties to the West Coast. I mean, this guy was wearing a damn Crenshaw hoodie while saying that Drake is totally off. Imagine if Maul, on the next podcast, wears a Toronto hoodie. Now, I know a lot of you might be saying, oh, Danny, that's Nipsey's brand. That's Nipsey's thing. But, I don't know, the optics just seem a little bit crazy. You would think Ice would not wear that and maybe try to seem a little bit down the road, but I don't know. There was just a lot happening this episode. It frustrated Joe so much that he had to walk off set. And I completely understand. I think Joe was trying to take lead of this show, but the cast wasn't letting him. But let me know what you think in the comments. Could you sense the tension on the show? I'm not saying it was a bad podcast. I thought it was good, but I just thought, there was people, that whole cast wasn't informed. Nobody read the damn court documents. Ish said, yo, I ain't read it. And he felt comfortable saying it. It's not even that you didn't read it. It's that you felt comfortable saying it. The optics, my brother. You're bugging out. And we also need to examine the exact moment when Joe Budden walked off set. It was when Flip was challenging him about the Drake stuff. Remember, Flip was like, oh, but yeah, Drake is evil, Drake is bad, Drake is this and that. But what if the label is actually engineering it so that he looks like he's falling off, but really he's not falling off? That's when Joe finally got up, walked off set, and did not reappear until a minute later. Joe has a narrative that he wants to get out about Drake. Granted, it's the most popular narrative right now. Drake is a Karen. He played with Kendrick. The fire came to his doorstep, and he got the lawyers. But when that narrative is challenged, Joe gets frustrated. And he does not want that pushback. And I know a lot of people are going to say, I may be doing too much of an analysis of this moment, but to me, you have to focus on the moments when people walk off camera. Remember when Alyssa Ford walked off camera because Flip violated her? She did that a couple times because Flip violated her. When you have a physical reaction to something someone else says, it reveals a lot. And I do wonder how much leeway Joe Budden is going to give Ice, because he gives Ice a lot of support. When the cast members want to go at Ice, Flip-ish, Joe Budden will be right there. Captain Saber B. Mike. You leave Ice alone. What happens when he's the one who has issues with Ice? And Ice technically isn't doing anything wrong. He's the most informed. He's the one who knows the most about the case. That's not saying a lot. And final thought on this is the Saturday cast, which records on Friday, is very weak. Mark Lamont Hill, he's the superstar, comes in on Wednesdays, does his professional job. He's on the show, knows everything, or if he doesn't know everything, he at least appears to know most things. Friday cast, don't know a damn thing. They just sitting down and looking pretty. And I think Joe might need reinforcements. Maybe J1 was supposed to be the reinforcements for the Saturday cast, but it didn't work out. And now the show is kind of just, wavering. But I still think it was a good episode. I just don't know if it was that great considering all of the news that has been happening. Should have been a really special episode if you ask me. But let me know what you think in the comments. Follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. And most importantly, my Patreon, The Stop. A lot of good stuff there. Classic spaces happening. I mean, really, really fantastic stuff. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.